Good morning,
Sure.
everyone, and welcome to today's ODYSSEE-MURE Energy Efficiency Academy webinar on energy audits as a policy tool. Thank you all for joining us today. We are very pleased to see such a strong interest in today's session with over 200 registrations. Okay, I see we have now 51 participants. So now I give the floor to Jean-Sebastian Brock, our senior energy expert at IEECP, who will kindly moderate today's session. The floor is yours, Jean-Sebastian.
Thanks a lot, Anousheh. Indeed, I think we can slowly start because the agenda is very rich today, as you can see on the welcoming slide. So today we continue our series on industry. You may remember, some of you, that last December we had the ENEA data team who provided an update about the latest trends in terms of energy consumption and energy efficiency in industry. Then last month, we had the webinar by the ADEME team, the French agency, who presented us the French Industry Pact, which is a program with support measures for SMEs. And today we continue that with a very nice topic that puts let's say, both sides, the data and policy, all together, looking at how the data may inform policies and maybe also useful for stakeholders, in that case, particularly industry companies. I'm very pleased that we have with us 3 experts with complementary experience to share today. We'll have first Janita Andrievskaya from TalTech, the Tallinn University of Technology, who will introduce the topic and also share some insights from the Estonian experience with energy audit data. Then Carlos Erce from the Italian agency ENEA will share their experience, because you might know that Italy has been front runner in developing a database of data from mandatory energy audits for the purpose of benchmarking. So that's very interesting to hear how far they went until now. And we'll conclude with Paulo Carlo from the Portuguese agency ADENE, that will provide the perfect example of the integration of the use of data in a policy. And in that case, that's the flagship policy for the energy-intensive industry in Portugal, SGCIE. But just before that, some quick updates about the project as usual, and the housekeeping rules most of you might be familiar with, but in case, so your mic and camera are off, so you don't need to worry about that. We strongly encourage you to ask questions anytime during the webinar, so you don't need to wait for the end of the presentation of each speaker to ask you questions. You can do that anytime. And please, whenever possible, put your questions in the Q&A panel that you should see on the top of the menu. That makes it possible for other participants to upvote your questions if they are also interested in it, and then we can prioritize the questions, and you can share or comments or information then in the chat at the same time. The webinars are recorded, and we also share the presentation files. You can find everything on the website, on the webinar page of the ODYSSEE-MURE website. Last month, a new policy brief was published and was prepared by Janita's lead author, and that was actually the starting point for the topic that we discussed today, with, let's say, the focus on the energy performance, energy efficiency indicators. And Janita will tell you a bit more about that and why there is also a connection of going deeper in micro data, or let's say bottom-up data from energy audits. If you want to meet the ODYSSEE-MURE team, there are 2 very nice occasions in the 2 next weeks. So the next week, there is the ECEEE summer study in France, where there will be a special session organized by ODYSSEE-MURE on energy efficiency, energy prices, and competitiveness. And then the next week in Brussels, I guess most of you are aware that it will be the EU Sustainable Energy Week, EUSEF, and there will be a session where ODYSSEE-MURE is speaker on Wednesday, 10th of June, to discuss also about energy efficiency with 3 other European projects, NFS+, SIDMICAT, and Save Energy Together. and you can find the link in the chat to register or to get more details about the agendas of all that. That's our last webinar before the summer break, but definitely not the last webinar of the project. So the series will continue after summer. And if you want to stay tuned and get more information about what's come next, please register, if not done yet, to the ODYSSEE-MURE newsletter, and also follow our account on LinkedIn. So that's all for the update of the project today, and I'm very pleased to hand it over to Janita, who will introduce the topic and share experience from Estonia. Janita, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Jean-Sébastien. Let me share the slides. Just a second. Center.
Yeah, we can see them.
Right. Good morning, and thank you for the introduction. Measuring energy efficiency in manufacturing is more challenging than it seems. Our research team reviewed more than 100 studies on the topic and found that the main challenge was not the method itself. The bigger problem was the nature of manufacturing. It is simply too diverse, and on national level, often indicators on national level often hides the differences and actually drive energy use. These findings led us to the next question. Can audit data help us see what national statistics cannot? That's what our today's presentation is about. See? Next slide. Right. Look at this picture. Manufacturing covers more than 200, let me have a laser point, more than 200 NACE classes at 4-digit level. Transport has just 30. Mining and utilities together have just 38. In practice, if we study manufacturing at 2-digit level over here, say food and beverages or chemicals, we are mashing together very different technologies and product mixes. And that is what most studies do, around 60 to 70% in our review. The finer you go, 3 or 4-digit level, better yet, audit level, the closer you get to the real technical performance. And without that, you risk measuring what is produced and not how efficiently it is produced. And the core problem is this. Manufacturing is heterogeneous, not only between the sectors, but also inside sectors. Even within a single 4-digit sector, energy use can diverge by an order of magnitude. For example, in dairy, milk powder can take 15 times more energy than production of fluid milk. And these differences in energy use are not in efficiency. They often reflect what is being produced and how. But if we aggregate these activities without correcting for such differences, the resulting indicator tells us very little about actual technical performance. So the main task, the main risk, is not using aggregate statistics. The main risk is interpreting aggregate indicator as technical efficiency. Energy intensity is probably the most commonly used indicator in this field. It tells us how much energy is used per unit value added, or sometimes per output index. It is good for monitoring trends, but look at this simplified relation on the dark blue area. Energy intensity is not the same as technical efficiency. When we calculate energy intensity from national statistics, we are looking at mixed signal, product mix, process route, price effects, all are folded in. So intensity moves whenever any of those drivers change, not only when technology change. And this is where the gap opens up. A sector can look more efficient simply because it shifted to less energy-intensive products, or it may look less efficient because sector's production capacity is underutilized. So energy intensity is useful as a long-term signal in national statistics, but for most of manufacturing, we need physical output or process context before we can interpret it as efficiency. Our research team recently published a policy brief, as Jean-Sébastien mentioned, on exactly this topic. Monitoring manufacturing energy performance using national statistics. It looks at specific energy consumption across steel, chemicals, pulp and paper, and shows in practice how much variation exists even within the same subsector. You can download it from ODYSSEE-MURE website, and the link will be in the webinar materials. So statistics are necessary. They tell us how much energy is used, how intensity changes, how emissions move, and how the sector compare, but statistics do not always explain why the indicator changed. That is the interpretation gap. Product mix, process route, utilization, and system boundaries. Audit can help fill this gap because it brings in physical output and process detail. And if this information is collected in a structured way, it can become policy intelligence. Better benchmarks, more targeted incentives, sector guidance, and monitoring. And but audit data doesn't come from one single source. We can think about at least 3 different streams. Yes, mandatory energy efficiency directive audits cover larger energy users. These audits are repeated and usually more structured, but they value depends on how each country collects and stores the results. Another stream is SME audits. These can reveal a lot of saving potential, but because they are often linked to support schemes or investment grants, the data is usually more fragmented and less regular. Integrated resource and energy audits are especially interesting for manufacturing because energy use and material efficiency are often connected. So before using any audit set, always ask who is included, who is missing, and why was the audit done. Audit data can be very rich, but it is not always representative or comparable. That is why it is promising, but also difficult to use. Audit data gives us exactly the kind of information we miss in statistics. Physical output, process context, saving evidence, firm-specific detail. So in principle, it can support meaningful benchmarking, especially within relatively homogeneous subsectors. But audit data is not automatically research ready. Some firms are missing, especially smaller firms or firms that are not obligated to carry out audits. And even when we have the reports, comparability is difficult. Boundaries differ, templates differ, units differ, and many audit reports estimated savings, not verified savings. So audit data can explain what statistics cannot, but only if coverage, boundaries, and context are made explicit. Let me illustrate this with our Estonian pilot project. Half of Estonia is covered with forest, and sawmilling and planing is an important sector in our economy. At first glance, this sector looks like a fairly narrow and uniform 4-digit sector. A company is processing wood, so it's tempting to calculate a simple indicator, such as kilowatt hours per cubic meter of product. But product routes are very different inside the sector. Some companies may only produce rough sawn timber, some dry it, some plane it or profile it, some impregnate or paint it, others make finger jointed or glued laminated products. Each step changes the energy profile. Drying adds heat demand, planing adds electricity use and changes yield. So if the audit captures energy use by process, we can work with this. But in most Estonian audits we reviewed in this sector, the data was available only at company level. Process level metering was almost absent. And drying data, probably the most energy-intensive step in the sector, was rarely explicit. So 1 kilowatt-hour per cubic meter can mean very different things in different companies. This is still an ongoing research, so I won't go into scientific details today. If you need information, you can easily freely contact me. But I know the early lesson is already clear. Audit data can support benchmarking, but only if the audit is designed for that purpose from the start, not retrofitted later. And that is exactly what my final slide is about. Three things matter before the audit even happens. First, understand competitive process in the sector. What actually drives energy use? For sawmilling, that can be drying efficiency, yield, production load. Second, define minimum tracking requirements, physical input and output, key process indicators. If it's not in the template, it will not be in the dataset. Third, provide a sector investment checklist, pre-compiled common measures that auditors can check against. This builds comparability across firms. And when we use the data, we still need caution. The benchmark group must be narrow. Physical indicators should come first. Context variables, product mix, technology age should be recorded, and benchmarks should be used as a diagnostic range, not as ranking. There is also room to improve templates over time so that future datasets become more useful. The goal is not to collect everything. The goal is to collect enough to avoid comparing fundamentally different production realities. And if we get that right, audits become more than compliance documents. They become evidence for better benchmarking and better policy. Thank you, and I'm ready to take some questions, perhaps.
Thanks a lot, Janita. It was a very good introduction to the topic. I think you made it very clear the diversity that can be found within industry and even within one particular sector. And the Estonian, the example you presented about Estonia is very clear about that. And I also support the recommendations for the audit design, even if we might have a discussion later about okay, to what extent also the energy audits are first made for the company itself, I mean for the customer of the energy audit, and whether it might create some conflict or in terms of cost and time available to prepare the audit. But that I think we will keep for the open discussion. Right now, I will come back to the main message you had at the very beginning and the difference between energy audit data and energy efficiency indicators in terms of aggregation. And based on the very interesting study that you made and that you presented at the Energy Evaluation Conference last year, and we shared the link in the chat for the one interested in your paper, how much aggregation according to your study, how much aggregation is too much before energy efficiency indicator lose their meaning? So what is the right granularity, in other words?
Well, I think aggregation is too much when you can no longer explain why indicator changed. If you cannot tell whether the improvement came from better technology, a shift in product mix, a price shock, then the indicator has lost its analytic value. It can still be reported, but it should not be used to evaluate policy effectiveness or benchmark energy efficiency in the sector. So that's can be.
No, that's a good rule, and that's something I think that is also clear to implement. And there was a similar questions from Samuel Young in the chat. Again, if you can, please put your questions in the Q&A panel, but if you prefer to put them in the chat, we will manage as well. So that's also about granularity, and is asking how granular should be the segregation, or let's say disaggregation, in terms of defining different subsector within an industry. But I guess your answer already kind of covered that. So Samuel, if you want more details, feel free to complement your questions, and we can come back to that later. Now, before we will continue and travel to Italy, and we will continue the discussion at the very end. But we can take two, 3 questions after each presentation. So please, again, feel free to ask your questions anytime in the chat or in the Q&A panel. I'm now pleased to welcome to the floor Carlos Erce, who is a senior researcher at ENEA, the Italian agency, and more specifically works in the unit for energy efficiency in economic sectors. And he will present us the Italian experience with developing a database from mandatory energy audits. Carlos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation and also for the introduction. Thank you, Janita, because your presentation let us our presentation very easier. Okay, so thank you for the very comprehensive and very good presentation. Okay, so I will present the activities that we have done on the benchmarking that from the data from the mandatory energy audits in Italy since 10 years, more or less, from now. Okay, so we are ENEA is our department is energy efficiency, the energy efficiency department, and we are the national agency for energy efficiency. Our department, our unit, okay, coordinate all the energy audits activities. Okay, so we manage the database, link it with the energy efficiency directive. We also do the quality control checks and the verifications, and we also create sectoral guidelines for develop more accurate and easy to follow and to analyze energy audits. We also prepare methodologies for the standardization of the energy monitoring practices and also the benchmark, and we also do activities on training, information, and representation. Okay, this is a main overview of our ecosystem in the past 2 years. Okay, so we are in the third year of the third cycle of the energy efficiency directive. Okay, and in this past 2 years we have more than 11,000 energy audits. Okay, for more than 8,000 companies. Okay, so we have a high number of energy performance improvement actions. Okay, so from 8,000 of implemented and 25,000 potential energy efficiency measures, and these are created by more than 1,000 of certified auditors and ESCOs. Okay, so we have a high amount of companies, auditors, typologies of companies, and so on that they are that they applied for the mechanism. Okay, so this information is used on the one hand to provide policy support to the ministry and also to regional and local actors, and also for the enterprises, because the idea is to enterprises have take advantage of the information that they are providing for us. Okay, so we collaborate with the business associations and also with the business the Association of Auditors and ESCOs in order to improve the mechanism, always continuous improvement of mechanism. Okay, and we also prepare a lot of different analysis from research, the different sectors and the methodologies and so on. Okay, our mechanisms in Italy have some particularities with respect to other countries. Mainly, we have a standard clustering for multi-site audits. Okay, so we are not asking for all the companies to do all the audits for all the sites, but only the most representative ones. Okay, and this is including the standard, and also we have a compulsory monitoring system. Okay, so it's necessary to have a monitoring system in continuous of a minimum threshold of your energy consumption, and also we have linked with the mechanism is the energy intensive industry mechanism in Italy. Okay, so a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises applied for this mechanism, and also realize the energy audits. Okay, so we have a lot of information on medium-sized enterprises in manufacturing. Okay, that applies to this mechanism. The structure of the information that we have is mainly based on, we have different reports, and we prepare this pre-compiled spreadsheet to have for each sector a structure of the consumption typical for the different NEC sectors. And also we divide the energy consumption in between main activities, auxiliary systems, and general systems at different levels in order to have an aggregated information of the plant and also a very detailed processes information for the different activities and with the different energy carriers. Okay, so we have information at very different levels, including from the general information from the company to have a first level benchmark, okay, including production. Okay, so we have our indicators are based in production, okay, not in economic information. And we have also information on the different energy carriers, the distribution uses, also different categories of energy performance improvement actions, and also this information to a second level. Okay, so for the specific sub processes. Our general procedure at first level. Okay, so in order to have information from the plant side for the different sectors, is going to the 4-digit NEC sector. Okay, so for the class. Okay, so we are going to the lower definition of the economic activity. Okay, we have a long and human work on data cleaning and homogenization, and after that we applied, when possible, many manufacturing a linear regression model. Okay, so we have the annual production and the energy consumption. Okay. In any case, we prepare two different kinds of indicators. One is the real sector indicator. Okay, so we took all the information from one sector and we prepared the mean value of the different sites and also the standard deviation. This value is also is different from the specific energy consumption. Okay, so we have another value related with the classical specific energy consumption that aggregate all the consumption and all the production. Okay, so we have this variation due to the different size of the sites. Okay, and usually we use this value. Okay, we have also different trees in range. Okay, depending on the standard deviation, the sector is more or less homogeneous. Okay, high homogeneous or medium homogeneity or low homogeneity. Okay, so we have this indicator with the mean value, and when possible, and with the sector is statistically representative and have a relatively good quality on statistics, we have this model. Okay, so we have the linear regression, we prepare divide for the production, and we have this parabolic function in order to have what is the evolution of the specific energy consumption with the class size of the production. Okay, so we have this economy of scale in the production. Okay, for all the sector. We also include an uncertainty model, okay, in order to have in what range is more or less accurate the model. Okay, so we can see that in the after a production more or less of 200, this is for technical gases production. Okay, so when we have more or less 200 million cubic meter annually, we have a relatively good accurate model. Okay, so we have understand what is the differences, and also we can see here what is the difference between use the real MPI and the model. Okay, so we can see that provide different information. Okay, so when available, we try to provide both indicators in order to provide what is the variability of the indicator in the production generally, and also with the production. Okay, so for the mainly for the companies, it's interesting to have this, what is the differences between the different class size, okay, in the different subsectors. This methodology is also good to compare what is the impact between the years. okay, so the evolution within the years. For example, we can see that there is an improvement in this sector, okay, always the sectoral, the technical gases production. We can see that if we take the real MPI, we have a reduction in the mean value, okay, with from the same sample, okay, so we need to have the same sample, the same production, and so on. And we can see that there are a reduction in the mean value of the real MPI, and also we have a reduction in the slope of the regression. Okay, so this slope of the regression is the final benchmark of the model. Okay, so it's the technical asymptotic value at very high production. Okay, so we have this final objective lower MPI in the model and also a lower mean value. Okay, so we can see that in this case of this sector, we have a better an increase in the energy efficiency for this sector. We analyze a lot of sector, analyze more or less half of the industrial demand in the country. Okay, 3/4 is thermal consumption and 1/4 is electrical one, and we provide hundreds of indicators, okay, at a first level. Okay, so we can see that we have a higher number of indicators than the NEC class code. Okay, this is because as function of the different processes, the different routes, the different products, and so on, we can define different indicators. For example, in the case of steel, electric arc furnaces, as function of your type of furnace, we can obtain different specific indicators. Okay, so for this, we have more indicators for we can obtain different indicators for different routes in the same NEC sector. Okay. We can also see that the variability, the common variability of the real value is relatively medium. Okay, so we have only in few processes we have a homogeneous production. Okay, because we have a common route and common production and common unit in the production and the product. Okay, the data cleaning is a very important phase, and we can see that only in practically 1/3 of the NEC code that we analyze, we obtain some indicator, okay, or because there is a heterogeneity in the production, heterogeneity in the number of, there is not a minimum number of audits, okay, must be at least 5, okay, or because we have not good information. Okay, so only 1/3 of the sectors we obtain an indicator, and in the data cleaning we lose between the 30 and 50% of the audits. Okay, so and this is okay. So we need also to understand that only one part of the audit that can be used for benchmarks. The real MPIs we have published, and you can obtain and check it in this public database. Okay, so you can see for the different sector going through the classes and so on, you can obtain the different sector, the different MPIs at first and also on second level. Okay, if you have, for example, compressed air production in foundries, you will also find this indicator in the database. It's free to access, it's fully available, and only you need to register. Okay, and only 1/3 more or less of the sector that have a real MPI have a model. Okay, can be modeled. Okay, so also the need to have a high quality statistic information drive to the reduction on only of some models. Okay, so only 1/3 of all these models of this sector can be modeled. Okay, mainly iron and steel, but also cement, glass, the upstream plastic, all the paper, and some NEC of the textiles. We analyze specifically some sectors with the business associations. Okay, we have in this moment 11 guides, and in these guides we analyze the benchmark and so on, and also we analyze, for example, in the case of cement, we have the flow analysis of the plant. Okay, so we can see what is the difference between the different production range. Okay, lower than 500,000 of tons by year, or higher than 500,000 of tons per year. Okay, so we have these differences, but going to the specific sector, we can see that, for example, the phase of pre-homogenization, okay, is relatively heterogeneous, okay, it's electrical drive and it's heterogeneous, but clinker production is really homogeneous, okay, so we can obtain more or less the same indicator for independently of the production. But going more in detail, we can see the differences between if you have 4 or 5 reheating cyclones. Okay, so we provide this specific information for the sectors. Okay, so this information useful for the business association as well as the energy efficiency measures, okay, in order to have what is the different energy efficiency measures in the different sectors as function of the size or difference also the sectors, and also provide information directly to the policymakers. Okay, yearly we provide an annual report to the ministry with the obligations on the companies, what are the compliance, what is this is also public, and what are the problems for the next steps on the transposition, what will be the issues related with the ISO, the energy management system certifications, and so on. Okay, so we can see what is the current status, and we are preparing for the next steps. And also going to the regional levels. Okay, so in order to provide the decarbonization routes or plans for the different regions, we use this information at local level to provide the specific energy efficiency scenarios. Okay, so we have working on 3 different regions, but we are also extending for the regions in Italy. And also applied what is the importance of some mandatory, what is the impact, for example, on some compliance additional issues. For example, the monitoring that is mandatory by law. We observe that this obligation enhance and promote the investment in energy efficiency. Okay, so there are additional benefits from the compliance that we are measuring on terms of the increasing of energy efficiency. So, in conclusion, we are covering 1/3 of the gross energy consumption in the energy audits, and we try to involve all the stakeholders in order to have a continuous improvement on the database, and also in order to provide more useful and interesting information for the stakeholders. It's very important, the human factor in auditing, okay, because there are more than 1,000 of the auditors, okay, so it's important to provide specific guidelines, templates, and so on, and also it's important the human factor in the benchmark people, okay, because we need also to understand and we try to align all the different analyses and so on. It's important also to go to the specific sectoral characteristics. Okay, so it's not a silver bullet and a silver model, only one model. So you need to go for sectoral specific, really granular sectors, and you need to combine different benchmark with the adoption on the different energy efficiency measures. Okay. We are working in improve always the mechanism, and also we are trying to understand other impacts such as the carbonation impacts, multiple benefits, and so on, and also the analysis of non-obligated small and medium-sized enterprises. Okay, thank you very much for your attention, and that's all from my side.
Thanks a lot, Carlos. It's quite impressive, I have to say, all the work that ENEA has done in this field. If I've noted well, you mentioned more than 11,000 energy audits already compiled in the database, if I'm correct. So that indeed provides quite a data set, I would say. And the one message I take from your presentation is also that, and you mentioned that at the very end as well, very, very nicely, that data does not work by themselves. You need a lot of work to transform data into information and also to ensure data quality. So you need experts on the side of energy auditors, but you also need, I guess, a good team at ENEA. So I assumed you're not alone to work on that, because you showed some of the industry sectors, and I guess you need experts for every sector to be able to, as Janita also explained earlier, to understand well what the difference, where the differences are, and how to analyze well the data. There was one clarification question to you from Rakesh Vazirani. I think you possibly already answered that in the question, so I might complement the question. So the question is, based on industry categorization, is it correct that light industry, like textile, are in the scope? But I think in one on your slide, there were textile included. So maybe the criteria is more on the size of the company rather than the sector, right? Or do you have sectors that are not yet covered?
The mandatory energy audits are linked with the energy efficiency directive with the size of the company. Okay, so they're mandatory for large companies, but there is this additional energy intensive industries. Okay, that is that include a lot of manufacturing companies, small and medium-sized enterprises. Okay, so there are these both mechanisms together, and textiles is one of the, we analyze in mainly manufacturing, but we have also analyzed hospitals, offices, supermarkets, and so on. Okay, so we analyze all the different economic sectors, also mining and so on. For textiles explicitly, I put in the chat, but in the Q&A section, our guideline, our analysis only for the textiles. Okay, so textiles is a sector that we analyze in detail. Okay, so there is this book only for textiles. Okay, so if interesting, you can go. It's in Italian. Okay, but you can go in detail, and we can see all the structure, including what is the economic structure of the textiles in the country, what is the number of factories, what is the structure of the SMEs and large companies, what is the benchmark for the different globally, and also for the different typologies of production routes as function of if you are using natural or synthetic fibers, you are going all the process, you are only doing the preparation of the textile and so on, and also the energy efficiency measures. Okay, so for example, textiles is a well-analyzed sector in Italy. Okay, so also depends in the business association. Okay, because if the business association have interest, we are going more in detail on the analysis.
Yeah, I guess the stakeholder engagement is indeed very important to make it effective. I mean, or to make it deliver energy efficiency actions at the end. No, thanks a lot, Carlos. You may continue the exchange with Rakesh about the textile sector in the Q&A panel if you wish. In the meantime, we will continue our travel and go to Portugal, and we will go a step further toward the policy side. I'm very pleased to welcome to the stage Paulo Carlo, who is the coordinator of the industry area at the Portuguese agency ENEA, and who will present the experience of the Portuguese scheme for energy intensive industry, SGCIE, if I'm correct. The floor is yours, Paulo.
Yes, you are correct. You are all welcome in Portugal, but I warn you that we have a temperature of 40 degrees. But you are always welcome to come to Portugal. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Paulo Carlo. I'm the industry area coordinator of the Directorate for Industry and Energy Transition of ADEN. I work in this field of energy efficiency since 1988, and by the Portugal experience in energy audits, it was always mandatory since 1982. Then we started this mandatory scheme in 2008. It has now 18 years old, but nowadays this is how it works. We have a mandatory system that oblige companies with a threshold of energy consumption higher than 500 tons of oil equivalent to have an energy audit and to implement a rationalization plan within a period of 8 years. They've got to accomplish the goals of the rationalization plan in 3 indicators: energy intensity, specific energy consumption, and carbon intensity. You have here reductions, obligatory reductions of 6% or 4%, depending if the company, not the companies, the installations of the companies have energy consumption higher than 1,000 tons of oil equivalent per year, or 4% if they have energy consumption lower than 1,000 tons of oil equivalent. They've got to produce a two-year report, and the periods of the let's say the implementation of this rationalization plan is 8 years. In the future, it will be according to the EED, the new EED, and it's going to be 4 years. And we will change the threshold for 10 terajoules, and in order to have a interoperability between the EED and the mandatory scheme. So in order to reduce energy costs for the companies to comply with two regulations, the EED and the SGCIE. We have nowadays something like 1,400 operators, let's say installations. You can say, is it a big amount of companies or a big amount of installations? These companies with those in the ETS, the emission trading system, they represent 80%, 80% of the energy consumption in industry in Portugal. Okay, we have a lot of small companies, very small companies, but those 2,000 companies, let's say installations, represent 80% of energy consumption. Nowadays, we have something like 2,500 energy audits within these 18 years, and it's okay because it's two periods of 8 years, so they are in the second cycle, and we have something like 5,000 interim reports, and 1,000 final reports when they show the results. Well, we are growing up with the system. Everything that we do. I have a team of 6 people, including me. We are the managers of the system, and higher than us, it's the Portuguese Directorate for Energy. They are supervisors. So we deal with this system with 5 people, 6 with me, and everything within a platform. What we do in the platform and how we collect the data, we have several stages. When they register, the companies, they introduce information in the system. The type of information is as common: name, address, contacts, and so on. So we have, I've got to reduce this in order to see the present. We have an inventory of personal data, anonymous, of course. Everything is compliant with the RGPD. Then we have the plans or the action plans. We can call it action plan. It's the same as in ED, and they submit the reports in the system. Everything is done with similar dashboards for everybody. They can have their intellectual property attached to the system, but every information that we see and use is the same for everybody. The way they include the input information is everywhere the same way. So we have detailed information, energy consumption, efficiency measure. I will show you how the platform works. Not the platform, the results. And then we have documents uploaded, and also the system automatically collects files sent by the users, invoices, certificates, because we've got to check if the measures are implemented with compliance documents, and everything is in the system. For the future, we want to follow the example of the Portuguese IRS, which is made in seconds. So everything is optimized, the process is optimized. So in the future, we will have less information, less paper, let's say PDF files and so on in the system. We want everything automated, since invoices, energy consumption by the dispatch, and everything will be done in a different way and using a lot of AI. So I've got to go. How do we process the information? Well, we do it in several ways. We do a validation of the dashboard and all the information that it is in the system, in the dashboards that to represent the action plans or in order to accomplish the targets. We also have additional information that is included in the system, and if we made a fiscalization report, we also put that in the system. And the flux that we have is we are doing our job in a first stage. Then we work with the Portuguese Directorate for Energy with the fiscalization. We inform them on non-compliance, exceeded deadlines, and DGEG also issues notification to the operators. Everything goes smoothly within the system, and then what we do, and the purpose of this presentation is to see what do we do with the information that we use. And so what we get from the system, I know that for you probably this information is too small, but here you can see a kind of information that we have from in our Power BI from the information that it is in the action plans. Here you can see the nice activities, the production, the energy intensity, the target they will have in the three main indicators that I told you: energy intensity and specific energy consumption and carbon intensity. This is the information that they have. We are in the starting point here, and we will have to reach the target in these indicators in 8 years period. Then we can have also all the amount of in the system. We have now something like 50,000 energy measures that you can see here in the system. They are defined in. They have a typology, but also they have a designation for the specific information. What we are doing for the future is we are disaggregating even more the measurement code and the typology of the measures. Also, we are going to harmonize the units for the production or the activities in order to have a better performance of the benchmarking tools. Here you can see the same information, but within the reporting that is made every 2 years, in the future every year, and we can see the kind of measures that were implemented, in which year they were implemented, and the impact of them. We take that information and publicly report them to the operators. They can, in the links that you have, you can see the information in online. And if you want, you can always check for a certain activity and look for the information in that activity. Here, what you are seeing is the kind of indicators, for instance, the cost in euros per ton of oil equivalent in subsectoral measures, the cost of it, and it can be used by this political deciders in order to choose if they are going to emission cost measures to incentive emission cost measure or to incentive tons of oil equivalent saving measure. Then you have other kind of information in which we call it benchmarking. We did this in 2020, and it was going to all the energy savings that are in the sectors of activity, and we are looking at it's a budget with a nice of 5 digits, and we have information here regarding what about the productive process, the typical degradation of consumptions in the sector, the analysis of several indicators, the relation between always anonymously regarding energy and production, and energy indicators, typically the minimum, the reference value, and the maximum of the sector of activity. Some graphic information about how which are the best companies. They don't know who are they, and if we have sectors with only 3 or 4 companies within our system, our mandatory system, we don't produce benchmarking information, because although it's anonymous, they will know who are they. And in the last in the right side of the presentation, you have typical measures of energy efficiency in this specific sector. We are doing also, this is some only examples. In water distribution, in meat products, always the same of information. And for just to finalize, what we are doing now is this information was collected directly by one person that worked in 26 sectors of activity. You can see it in our online platform. And what we are doing now is to have this already produced instantly in Power BI. It's not working yet, but in the future, if somebody wants to have a benchmarking report in a certain sector of activity, and depending on the rules of aggregated values and LGPD, we will have this instantly in the platform. Thank you very much. I'll now accept all the kind of information that you have.
Thanks a lot, Paolo. I think that has complemented very well the picture for today. We also see that, as you mentioned, you need a team, you need expertise, and that's a long-term investment, I would say. In the energy efficiency industry, you don't get an expert of energy efficiency industry overnight. So you need people who stay in the field and who can provide let's say the information and the piece of advice that is relevant to the companies and stakeholders. I think Carlos will have to leave soon. I don't know if you want to add a last word before you leave from your other meeting. I see you already answered in the Q&A panel to some of the questions related to you.
I tried to answer in the panel, but I also agree with Paolo and with Janita and all the aspects related with the staff, the importance of the prepared staff and involvement of personnel specific for the different analysis, okay? Because with obviously we are less person that we need to do a better work, but all the work that is all the team is okay. We need to be in 15. We are in 15, okay, so more or less, and we are a very good work team, okay, specialized in different sectors and so on. So it's important to have this in mind, okay. So the human factor is still very important in all the ecosystem. So it's not only technical issues, okay. It's analysis, is also decision support, is also how to behavioral aspects, and there are different dimensions on the human behavior in the efficiency activities. Okay, so also in the benchmark that seems to be very technical. Thank you very much. I said yes, I need to leave, and thank you for your. And if any case, you can contact me by email. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Carlos. I hope Paolo and Janita just tell me if you can stay 5 more minutes, and I would have two topics for you to conclude all the discussion. The first one would be maybe we can start with Paolo, the feedback from the companies that you get. So you in Portugal, they have some kind of obligation, but you also provide them a service in terms of information. They got something from what they deliver to you. So I guess you have organized some kind of regular contact with them, or how do you? What is your experience with that part of the stakeholder engagement? Let's say.
Well, I'll tell you the success story and the not success story and why. The success story is that we made every year a poll, a survey for the companies in order to know what they think about the system, not the system, the operation, because we are asking about our job, at the end job, not to ask if they agree or not with the regulation, okay? Usually they don't agree. Everything that is mandatory, nobody agrees. But it has to be this way, and we know in Portugal that once we started in 1982, we always continue having this, and we know in statistics that we are going in the right way according to the stabilization of industry energy consumption. So we made mandatory, we made queries. They answered about new things to add to the system, opinions, and so on. But the good part was that I myself had a KPI in order for the evaluation of the team and myself in the company in Aden. KPI always that I was obliged to have a score higher than 4 in a 5-point scale in order to be well evaluated in Aden. But we made this. It was myself that suggested this KPI. Why? Because we wanted to have always better than 4, and I'm pleased to say that we always had an higher evaluation, higher than 4. So yes, we always did this to know what they need, what they think, how the system can be better and quicker, and so on and so on. And now the unsuccessful story, which is we can only do this. The success ratio of answers is very low. Okay, so we have 1,400 installations, and we usually have questions for the installations and questions for the auditors, and usually we have 200 operators answering, and 50 auditors answering from a universe of 260. So in the last years, at least 2 years, we stopped doing this evaluation because we are not happy with the kind of answer. Okay? But nevertheless, we know that the Portuguese industry and the Portuguese operators that are in this mandatory system, they like it. We also have sectors of activity regarding the retail sectors and the water sectors that are using the system for energy management. So I don't know if I answered.
No, you answered perfectly well. That doing surveys is in one part, but seeing that the information that you deliver is used, I guess you can see that from the number of visitors on the website of the scheme, etc. Plus also the feedback you have from companies saying that they use the data. I think it's even more important, even if then it's more qualitative and difficult to get a representative sample, etc. But that's good to see this development. I don't know, Janita, in the work you've done, if you also looked at that part of how the companies are using the data from benchmarking, or if they are feedback loop organized. Yeah, I don't know if that's part of your research.
In Estonia, we do not have yet a system for analyzing audit data. So we are looking with or like what's in Italy and Portugal is done. But as an auditor, I know that many companies use benchmarking information, but from different sources and international comparisons, and they are very much interested into that. And as a researcher, I represent the university. I see this big amounts of information that we collect in audits, which is not used sometimes for legal reasons, maybe for some motivational reasons in public sector, different obstacles. That's why we initiated this topic. I think that's very useful for many countries, not just Estonia.
No, clearly, and we see also from the 3 presentations that we get more and more data for regulatory reasons, but also coming to the second topic, Paolo, you mentioned digitalization and the use of AI, and I guess, okay, that's our topic everywhere. So, of course, also for processing energy data and collecting data from energy audits. But at the same time, all of you, the 3 speakers today, you showed very well that you need a very specific expertise because this data do not speak for itself. So where do you see the added value of AI in this process, more specifically, and let's say where the human factor, as Carlos mentioned, but you as well, will remain essential? Are you muted, Paolo? We cannot hear you. Let me check if I can unmute you.
I was asking first if the question was for both of us or for me.
You can start and then Janice, I can complement.
Okay, sorry for the microphone. Well, we are 6 persons and we have a lot of work looking for the system and making contacts with companies and so on in order for them to fulfill and correctly and so on and so on. But nowadays we take a lot of time looking for invoices because they sent us the PDF files. We spend a lot of time looking for proof of the implementation of measures. We have a lot of information that can be used or treated by AI, but we will use AI not only for that to have the process quickly. We also do in the future specific dashboards for energy measures, energy efficiency measures, for them to use always the same kind of tool. We will not take time looking for everybody's opinion on a certain energy efficiency measure. No, we will put it in a dashboard. They will use it. The dashboard will say it's green. We will not look for the measure in the action plan. We will look for the measure when implemented and approved. We will use AI to see all the documents. We will use AI to have quality evaluation of the system, of the worst auditors, the worst companies. So everything will be done because it's a mandatory system. What we do nowadays with Power BI, we will have some intelligent machine to do that. We are now using AI in our job every day. We don't have yet the AI in the platform. We want it in the future, in the next mandatory system. We are now preparing the legislation. I will have a meeting in half an hour about the new legislation in Portugal. But we are now using AI to hurry up some analysis of process and so on. We want to make easier for those that analyze, for those that do fiscalization and mandatory regulations, and for those that are producing information to the system.
Okay, so in a sense, it will make part of the data processing more systematic and quicker, and make possible for your team to focus their human analysis, let's say, where there is most added value for it, if I understood well.
Yeah, well, I didn't answer that part because your question was, will will you have problems with the AI regarding your team? No. Nowadays, we don't have time for dissemination, production of materials, everything regarding capacity of auditors and companies. We don't have the time. We have a lot of work. For 5 persons are not enough as a system it is now. In the future, it will be an optimization of process. This team will be divided in somebody that will look for the evaluation of the system, somebody that will look for the connection with the IT team, somebody that, and everybody will work in dissemination, capacity, training, and so on. Okay. And that way I can keep the team, because they are very keen on doing other things that always every day look into energy audit.
Okay, so let's also see that it will help to make the job of the team more interesting. So that's a good news as well, and it will deliver also more impact. So that sounds promising, and we will maybe have a webinar in 1 or 2 years to check where we stand with that. So that's perfect. And Janika, on your side, in your research, I guess also that the development related to AI is also a big topic. So maybe it was not used in your previous study, but maybe you plan to use it for further research.
I was actually wanted to comment on the human factor. I very much encourage Energy Agency to do cooperation with universities, because master students, PhD students are very much looking forward for this kind of data we can work with. It might be maybe complicated for an agency to have the time to cooperate with universities, but it's a good, might be a good start. As for AI, I think that's a small thing. If you just start with the whole system, the more important for us it's to have a structured, homogeneous data, and also the confidentiality that Paolo mentioned, that if you have only 3-4 companies in the sector, you just cannot do any benchmarking. In Estonia, as a small country, just 1.34 million people, we have a problem like that. So it's a kind of a dream that we can put together all our data on manufacturing sectors, so that Estonia can compare some certain industrial process with the same process in other countries. But let's see if it's possible. And really thank you to Paolo and Carlos for presenting their experience. Very appreciate.
No, thanks to the two of you, and also to Carlos who already left. I will stop here. I could speak with you for hours, but I know that you have other obligations, and Paolo, you mentioned the important meeting you have soon, so you probably need to get prepared for that. That was the last question, but I keep it for, let's say, a topic that we may address in a future webinar. Maybe that's a good suggestion of topic, which is the interactions between energy audits or the policy you presented with other type of requirements that companies have to meet. So Johannes mentioned the industrial emissions directive, product carbon footprints under the upcoming sustainable product regulation, batteries regulation, the carbon border adjustment mechanism. So let's say overall the interactions between the different regulations and obligations that apply on company, and yes, that can be a good topic for a future webinar, I think. On that, I thank you very, very much. It was super insightful, and I hope that there were some representatives from ministries looking at the webinar, and maybe they will see that it's really, really worth investing in that and having good teams working on this topic, because we, especially in this period of high energy prices, we see all the value of this expertise to support the industry in Europe. So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and experience, and have a nice summer, and we will continue the webinar series after the summer break. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a